Today, I'm going to draw for you a few force diagrams that calls into question those who vilify the seated knee extension. See, to truly understand an exercise and its pros and cons, its potential risks and rewards, we need to have an appropriate understanding of the way forces work and be able to remove the other distracting variables that are affecting our ability to analyze that movement in particular. So, if we start off with a knee extension, we can take maybe the bottom and the top portions of the movement. Here, at the bottom, we have an upper leg and a lower leg, and the force being applied through the pad. And in the top position, with the knee straight, we have a similar situation. Now, provided we have set someone up on this machine so that their knee joint is aligned with the axis of the machine, provided we have got the lengths of the moment arms involved well matched up, then what we should end up having is a fairly fluid movement without any friction or shear in any direction, and a consistent amount of force being applied, or consistent direction of force being applied, the amount of which will be dictated by the resistance profile of the machine itself. Now, when we look at this in its parts and how the force should be perpendicular to the shin in both of these situations, we now have an interesting force-related physics perspective on this movement. And the hypocrisy here potentially lies in what movements maybe certain parties that are biased might see as being okay. I've very rarely heard people that say that knee extensions are bad for you say that split squats or planks are bad for your knee. Now, if we start by looking at a rear foot elevated split squat, you're going to have your torso like so, your front leg might be like that, and your back leg could be angled something like this, with you stood on whatever you're using to elevate the rear foot. Now, when we look at this force diagram, the way force is actually applied to the body is coming from the floor. And so the two forces you're experiencing are this return force from the floor here, and this one from whatever you're elevating your back foot with. And a similar situation happens with a plank, because if this is the floor, and these are one's elbows, going up to their shoulders and their head, and then their body goes back, torso, arse, upper leg, lower leg, foot. In this situation, you have two return forces. Once more, you have the force being applied here, where the elbows or forearms meet the floor, and then you have the force being applied here on the foot. Now, in these situations, if we were to just make a general assumption that someone's weight was being evenly distributed through these 2 points of contact, what we can kind of do, just to keep things simple, is ignore this half of the equation. What this will help us do is make things a little bit less distracting. And what we then end up with are a couple of diagrams that look strangely familiar. In fact, with my leg at a 90-degree angle, and the force potentially also, if we include there being some friction involved, effectively coming through maybe even closer to perpendicular to my shin, I've got something that looks flipped upside down quite like this. And in my plank, I equally have, if I turned that by 180 degrees, something that looks quite like this. If there's not actually that much of a difference here, what makes these functional and these bad for your knee?